If you want to transform your setup, this is not so far-fetched an upgrade you could have. Meet Alienware AW2725D and 13:8 Samsung QD OLED monitor. The box was in good shape and packaging is above average. Felt premium, but I like their old box better. The stand and the back of the monitor is deep blue. Even though I thought I wouldn't like it, in person this is very nice. The plastic quality is good, doesn't feel flimsy at all. The chin of the monitor is thin compared to what I am used to see, and combined with semi-gloss coating, more on that later, this monitor screams a very premium look. And of course the stand got all sort of adjustment you can expect. You get one display port with two HDMI 2.1 FRL, which is full at 48 Gbps with no caveats, no need of display compression for 10-bit 280Hz signal. All QD OLED except Samsung themselves have semi-gloss coating, which is I think Goldilocks. It's not as hazy as matte finish. One of the reasons I didn't want to wait for the tandem OLED, because all first batch of tandem OLED is going to be matte finish, and it is not a mirror-like reflection either like some 3rd Gen W OLEDs. And as I use my computer in lit room mostly, too much reflection can be a problem. But I wouldn't want complete matte finish on an OLED either, because to me the glossy finish is what is the elephant in the room for this monitor. It adds so much to the depth of the picture quality. And now speaking about raised blacks on QD OLED, this is absolutely non-issue. It is way more blown out on the internet. It does raise a black little bit in bright room, but it's not like IPS glow from inside rather than outside. And to make it like magenta or pink, you need a supernova explosion in your room, literally. If you have any sort of controlled lighting in your room, you should have no issue. But having lights on the back of the monitor is the most ideal. Again, under any normal circumstances, even with raised blacks, the viewing experience is far better than any IPS. Now let's talk about picture quality. Upon first boot, the monitor showed me this message showing we should be assured this monitor is accurately factory calibrated, and I found that gamma tracking is also on par with no black brush out of the box, but let aside accuracy for a while. When I saw this lock screen with this image that I have from January, I knew where I put my money into, and I realized that it's worth every penny. That lock screen alone never looked better, and again that gloss adds so much to the fidelity. Now accuracy. Even though Dell assuring their factory calibration, I feel white balance is on the cooler side and reds a bit more saturated. It's very hard to explain. It is not as severely off as my previous monitors, but I at least had to make the white balance look like iPhone. So I did this configuration. Under the custom color, I reduced the red and blue gain by 1% and 2% respectively, offsetting blue by 1%, but by doing that green became a little apparent, so I subtract 2% from green hue. And as for the red, I reduce 1% from red saturation. After that, it looks sublime and matched iPhone's mild creamy white, which I prefer. And with much wider color gamut than iPhone, I can safely say my eyes have never experienced such picture quality in my life. And that custom color setting of mine didn't break 2.2 gamma tracking. The black label stayed exactly same as the factory calibration. Now if you don't know what you are doing, gamma tracking can break pretty easily. Even 1% of wrong value can crush black label and white saturation. This is, by the way, with no black Q laser. If you raise black, you can read all of them, but that might not be accurate. On OLED monitors, even if you can make out to number 4 square, you are fine. And for those who are wondering, gamma 2.2 tracking is what ensures we get near black and near white labels perfectly distinguishable. For me, number 3 is visible and number 2 is just barely if I look very hard. Now, QD OLED is made for vibrancy. It is one of the most strongest point why people choose it over LGW OLEDs. If you want the most accurate color profile, then sRGB mode is the way to go, and it is chosen by the professionals. It claims the gamut coverage to Rec 709 from the very wide Rec 2020 above 80% coverage of QD OLEDs. So, if you are using this monitor for professional works, definitely set color profile to sRGB. Now HDR. There is two modes for HDR, True Black 400 and Peak 1000. They all follow sRGB color space by default, which looks washed out in desktop environment. But as soon as you start HDR content, they look great. But be very sure which games or content have proper HDR implementation. Otherwise, you might be leaving color accuracy on the table. In True Black mode, you get full peak brightness higher with 10% window being 400 nits. In Peak 1000 mode, you get full screen brightness lower but 10% window being 1000 nits. If you are watching dark contents with small highlights, Peak 1000 mode is better. If you are watching overall bright contents, then True Black 400 mode is the way to go. But generally, True Black 400 works better universally with better EOTF tracking, because it doesn't have to dim the scene suddenly. I don't have proper tools to objectively measure the performance of HDR, but I heard good things about Alienware HDR algorithm, and I generally enjoyed all HDR contents with no visible dimming issue. Here I want to make a little explanation of what HDR really is and what all this 10% 2% window means. It's very simple. In normal monitors, the brightness is fixed in every section of the monitor. If it is 250 nits, it's 250 nits when displaying black or displaying bright object. That doesn't make sense in real life. For HDR capable monitors, the brightness is dynamically controlled in every section of the monitor. Where there is a bright object in a frame, that part can be 400 nits. And on the darker section of that scene, that brightness is maybe down to 100 nits, and that's how it creates a dynamic image, and that is why it is called dynamic range. And this is the reason HDR looks so real, because it is how we see the real world. So I would suggest keeping HDR off if you are really consuming HDR contents, because desktop is not dynamic, neither all contents. So turning it off reduces the risk of burn-in even more. 280Hz computing is super smooth, but the perceived smoothness is still bigger for me, going to 144Hz from 60. And motion clarity is one of the best you can get in OLEDs, be it 280 or 60. I still keep it at 240Hz because it syncs well with all formats of videos, and it might further improve the longevity due to less heat generation. Speaking of burn-in, prevention features such as pixel refresh, which occurs automatically when the panel health is low after 4 hours of using. And what I like about this monitor doesn't have to be in standby mode. You can turn it off, but as long as the monitor is getting power from the plug, it will do the maintenance in the background, unlike some other OLEDs which you have to put it in standby. Monitor is G-Sync compatible certified and can be activated through HDMI 2.1 connection. One of the things I don't like about this monitor is how loud this joystick button. It sounds like I'm activating Hadron Collider. Then there is this pixel shifting, which is another burn-in prevention. It shifts the whole image once in a while, not very often, but what bothers me is these asymmetric bezels. All OLED monitors have this as a feature, but in a well-lit room, you kind of see it as a raised black. No monitors are perfect, and OLEDs are absolutely not. Need so much attention to settings, room lighting, and overall care. But even then, the amount of fidelity it adds to an image, it's no lie how better is this technology from normal LCDs. And Dell did a good job with this one.